What do you do when you've moved to LA to pursue your dreams of making music, you've booked a gig with your idols, you're on the cusp of superstardom, and then you hear that your girl back home is cheating on you? How about making a banger of a track and selling 60 million copies of your album? Sound good? Fred Durst didn't have the easiest childhood. When recalling his high school life with North Carolina's Shelby Star newspaper, Durst recalled being bullied at Hunter Huss High School in Gastonia. It was a very minimal existence for me there, but I always had a good spirit and took the abuse, he said. Being creative makes you an outcast. I wouldn't replace it with anything. I had good times, even though it was a little hard on me. Fred embraced the new school of hip-hop and breakdancing, but also the more established worlds like skateboarding, metal, and punk. It was Fred who would have the last laugh as his bullies reached out to him years later on Facebook to apologize. But he said the teenage phase of his life catalyzed the creation of Limp Bizkit. After being in the Navy for 2 years, having a daughter, but also losing his marriage, Fred moved back to the city of his birth, Jacksonville, Florida. He joined several bands such as Authority Porch, Split 26, and Malachi Sage, who also featured future Bizkit bassist Sam Rivers. Durst also created the band 10 Foot Shindig, but after not seeing the level of success he wanted, he invited Sam to join him in a brand new project. Sam agreed and invited his cousin John Otto, who was enrolled at the Douglas Anderson School of the Arts for Jazz Drumming to, get this, play the drums. After trying out various guitarists, Wes Borland got the job, and thus Limp Bizkit was born. The band adopted the moniker Limp Bizkit because they wanted a name that would repel listeners, and based on album sales, they did not succeed. The music was too good. But in a Reddit AMA, Freddie D himself shared some of the shortlisted names. Gimp Disco? Meh. I mean, I get the joke, but meh. Split Dick Slit? Not bad, but perhaps alienating for those who don't have dicks to slit. Bitch Piglet, which was my personal favorite, and Blood Fart. Again, not bad, but perhaps alienating for those who don't have vaginas to fart blood out of. Well, then again, you could just fart blood out your ass. Okay, it's growing on me. The band got a lot of buzz for their scintillating live performances, notably covering George Michael's Faith, which featured on their first album, $3 Bill Y'all, and especially for Wes's stage presence. I remember when I was a kid, I thought his eyes were actually black. I was like, oh no, what horrible disfigurement could have caused his eyes to turn black? No, you may laugh at my stupidity, but I for one long for the days of innocence and youthful ignorance. And Lunchables. DJ Lethal from House of Pain would complete the quintet, getting the opportunity to show off his turntable skills in a somewhat different medium. No longer shackled to just scratching records, Lethal planned to be somewhat of a second guitarist in the band. It worked. After meeting Korn when they stopped for a show in Jacksonville and Fred giving them shitty tattoos, Korn's bassist Fieldy passed the Limp Bizkit demo to producer Ross Robinson, who initially passed on them, but after hearing his girlfriend rave about the band, decided to give the guys a shot. And it's kinda ironic, isn't it? You name your band Limp Bizkit to piss people off, and it pisses off the producer of your debut record so much he almost passes on you. Thank you, Ross's girlfriend. You didn't know it yet, but you had a hand in prolonging the shelf life of metal. Robinson, always keen to get the best performance out of the bands that he works with, and especially the lead vocalist, was able to harness Fred's rage throughout the album. Whether it was the pain of his teen years, other bands swagger jacking their style, or dysfunctional relationships, Fred delivered. But he would not forget how useful mining his life for music was. He had merely scratched the surface. Throughout the history of metal, we have seen clashes between guitarists and frontmen. In Limp Bizkit, Wes Borland often grew tired of the band's sound, and of Fred Durst. He quit prior to the band recording $3 Bill Y'all. He quit about a year after Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water was released. He rejoined after Results May Vary, but then quit again to rejoin again in 2009. and I think he quit again at some point. Nevertheless, he came back for $3 Bill Y'all, and he was certainly present for their sophomore album that would put Limp Bizkit on the motherfucking Mount Rushmore of contemporary metal, whether people liked it or not. And that album was Significant Other. The album sold 60 million copies worldwide and featured the likes of Method Man, Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots, and Korn's John Davis. But the success of the record was thanks in large part to Nookie. And as much as West didn't like Limp Bizkit's sound at times, it forced him to create riffs that wouldn't merely mimic the generic nu metal chugs of the era, but to create riffs that people would eventually copy from him. Now, there's two slightly different stories as to how the song got its name. The band were creating an outro for a different track. West was playing over a beat from Lethal, they liked it, and they created a quick verse and chorus. Now, based on West's interview with Songfacts, quote, the beat was sampled off of an Italian porn movie from the 70s or something that Lethal had in a library. It was like, that beat's from a porn movie, we should call that song Nookie. However, West's interview with Kerrang in 2008 is slightly different. Quote, when we were in the studio, there was a porn magazine that had the word Nookie on the cover. So I was like, this song's called Nookie. I never thought someone would actually run with it. I suppose it's all my fault. Regardless, Fred loved it and apparently used some of the lyrics that were written when West and Lethal were jamming together, although it is unclear if John and Sam were present. However, Songfacts got the inside scoop from an ex-girlfriend of Fred's named Jenny, who dated Fred before he started Limp Bizkit. Apparently, while Fred was in LA trying to get the band going, he sent cash back home to his girlfriend to pay the bills. Not Jenny, some other girl. But she ended up spending the money on drugs and hotel rooms with another guy by the name of Scotty O, aka Teddy Swoz. Word got around the neighborhood and eventually to Fred, and he was pretty bummed out about it, but didn't break up with the woman immediately. He said to MTV, Nookie is about my ex-girlfriend, how she treated me like shit and I couldn't leave her, wouldn't get over it. She screwed my friends and used me for my money. I tried to figure out why I did it, and I figured I did it all for the Nookie. Contrary to popular belief, Nookie is not slang for pussy, that's cookie. It's slang for sex. Anyone interested in sex could do it for the Nookie, whether that involves being in a shitty relationship for a million fucking years, driving halfway across the country, or watching the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Virtually all of us have done something for the Nookie. You know, there was a parody of Cookie Monster rapping Cookie instead of Nookie that was floating around on Napster and later LimeWire, which is where I got it from, along with 8 Trojans, 19 viruses, and a tough battle with syphilis. Long story. This whole time, I thought it was Weird Al Yankovic who did it, but no, it was some other genius motherfucker. Thank you, kind sir, whoever you are. But during the verses, Fred does his best Tupac impression while reflecting on a tough life that's only gotten tougher due to his cheating partner. He tries to save face by giving her the benefit of the doubt at first, before admitting that sex was a good enough reason to stay, at least for a while. And there's a bit of self-loathing too. Why did this have to happen to me? I'm sure all of us who can relate have asked that question, and as much as friends have the right advice, it's easier said than done. This leads to the darker side of nu metal. As crunchy as West is and as smooth as Lethal, Otto, and Rivers are in this legendary song, we see the instance of the self-defeatist mentality in the lyrics that nothing's gonna change because the symbol of your life can go away, so you just stay there and always be the same. Today, we see instances of these sentiments in emo rap, but you know, as a 90s, 2000s kid with low self-esteem, I lapped this shit up. It felt good to shit on myself. I was so used to it after it had been done to me. But then you get older and you realize that you have to clean that shit out if you want any semblance of a decent life. But the subject and emotions of Nookie and other songs clearly nod as to why the album was called Significant Other. It's about the dude's ex-girlfriend. Fred spoke to Guitar Magazine in August '99 and shared, quote, It was one of these relationships where I was on tour and she's sleeping with my friends. I'm supporting her and she'd say, "Oh, I lost the money," or "I need more money." She was just using me so bad. I would find out things and I would keep forgiving her because I had been with her for so long, like 3.5 years. So who the hell is this lady anyway? Well, if you look at the liner notes of a $3 Bill Y'all CD, you will see Fred give thanks to a woman named Sage, right next to Mom and Dad. He also mentions her in Indigo Flow, the final song on $3 Bill Y'all, where Fred gives thanks to the people who helped the band along the journey and along the recording of the album. After rapping to his mom and dad about coming home, he raps, "What up to my girl Sage?" And after mentioning a friend named Sean, he mentions his friend, Teddy Swoes. Fred was telling the truth. His girl hooked up with his fucking friend, bro. The music video for Nookie was described by Fred as a guerrilla campaign, and he directed it. The band announced to their fans to link up mere hours before shooting in Long Island City. Within seconds, children of the Bizkit manifested in the location. The video serves as poetic justice where a broken-hearted but chipper Durst walks down the street, red Yankees cap clad, to the shock and awe of a harem of chicks who follow him to the street performance with the rest of the band. Their adoring fans sang along and flipped off the cameras and by extension the world that had rejected them. It was beautiful, chaotic, and cathartic. Those who dared to think of themselves as above the Bizkit levied their accusations of sexism on deaf ears. As was already stated, Nookie the slang is simply about sex, and Nookie the song is about a man who tried to provide for his girl as he went out into the world to fulfill his dreams. But she stepped out on him with a guy named Teddy. It's fucked up, bro. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.